Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the massive ship called Vengeance. He looked out the big window at the dark space ahead. For 3,000 years his people had traveled through the cold emptiness between stars. Now finally they were going home. "Sir, we're getting close to Earth," said Lisa Bradley from her seat at the controls. She was the captain of the scout ships, and her voice was calm but excited. Jake nodded. His heart was beating fast. None of them had ever seen Earth before. Their great-great-great-grandparents had told stories about the blue and green world where humans came from. But those were just stories now. Today they would see it with their own eyes. "Admiral Walsh wants to see you on the main ship," Lisa said. Jake walked through the long hallways of the Vengeance. The ship was huge, bigger than a city. Outside the windows he could see thousands of other ships flying with them. Every ship was full of humans who had been waiting for this day their whole lives. Admiral Kevin Walsh was an old man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had spent his whole life getting ready for this moment. When Jake entered the command room, Walsh was looking at a big screen that showed Earth getting bigger and bigger. "There it is," Walsh said quietly. "Our home, but something was wrong." Earth looked different from the stories. The planet was brown and gray instead of blue and green. Thick clouds covered most of it, and the clouds looked dirty and poisonous. "What happened to it?" Jake asked. Dr. Amy Foster walked over to them. She was a scientist who studied alien life. Her face looked sad and angry at the same time. "The Zephyrians did this," she said. "They burned our world and made it into their own." Jake felt anger growing in his chest. The Zephyrians were the aliens who had attacked Earth 3,000 years ago. They had killed billions of humans and forced the rest to run away into space. Jake's ancestors had promised that one day, humans would come back to make things right. "Show me everything," Walsh said to the scout teams. Lisa and her pilots had been flying around Earth for hours, taking pictures and recording everything they saw. What they found made everyone sick with anger. The oceans were black and oily. Dead fish floated on the surface. The air was so dirty that nothing could breathe it without special masks. Where beautiful cities once stood, ugly alien buildings now reached up into the poisoned sky. "They turned our forests into factories," Lisa reported. "They dug huge holes where our mountains used to be. They took everything beautiful about Earth and destroyed it. But the worst part was still coming." "Sir," said another scout pilot named Steve Collins, "you need to see this." Steve showed them pictures of aliens walking around on Earth's surface. Not just soldiers, but families. Alien children playing in parks built on top of human graves. Alien farmers growing strange crops in the dirt where human cities once stood. "How many of them are there?" Walsh asked. "Millions," Steve answered. "Maybe more. They've been living here for hundreds of years. To them, this is their home now." Jake looked at the pictures and felt his hands shake with rage. These aliens were living on Earth like they belonged there. They had forgotten that they were standing on stolen land. Dr. Foster was studying alien messages that the scout ships had picked up. "Listen to this," she said, and played a recording. The alien voices were strange and high-pitched. Even though Jake couldn't understand the words, Amy translated for them. "They're talking about Earth like it's a prize," she said. "They use it to scare other alien races. They tell everyone that this is what happens when you fight against the Zephyrian Empire." "They're using our world as a threat," Walsh said, his voice getting angry. "That's not all," Amy continued. "Earth is like their capital city now. It's where they send their most important leaders. They think owning Earth makes them powerful." Jake couldn't listen anymore. He walked to the window and looked down at the brown and gray planet below. Somewhere down there were the bones of his ancestors. Somewhere down there were the ruins of the greatest cities humans had ever built. "Sir," Lisa called from her station, "the aliens are starting to notice us. Their patrol ships are moving toward our position." Walsh straightened up. For 3,000 years, humans had been preparing for this moment. They had built better ships, better weapons, and better technology. They had trained every child to be a soldier. They had never forgotten who they were or where they came from. "Send a message to all ships," Walsh ordered. "Tell them that Operation Homecoming begins now." Jake felt a chill run down his back. Operation Homecoming was the plan to take back Earth. Every human in the fleet knew about it. They had practiced it 1,000 times. Now it was really happening. "What are your orders, sir?" Jake asked. Walsh looked at him with cold, determined eyes. "We're going to take back our world," he said. "The aliens had 3,000 years to enjoy what they stole from us. Now it's time to pay the price." Alarms started ringing throughout the ship. All around them, the human fleet was getting ready for battle. Weapons were powering up. Fighters were launching from the big ships. Soldiers were putting on their armor and checking their guns. Jake thought about all the stories his grandmother had told him about Earth. Stories about blue skies and green grass. Stories about animals that were now extinct. Stories about cities full of art and music and laughter. All of that was gone now. The aliens had taken it all away. "Sir," Lisa reported, "enemy ships are approaching fast. They don't look friendly." Walsh smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had waited his whole life for revenge. "Good," he said. "Let them come. They're about to learn what happens when you steal from humanity." Jake looked out at Earth one more time. Soon he would be down there, fighting on the same ground where his ancestors had lived and died. The thought scared him and excited him at the same time. The aliens had made Earth into a symbol of their power. But humans were about to turn it into something else entirely. They were about to turn it into a symbol of justice. Danny Wright crouched behind a broken wall that had once been part of a human building. The air around him was thick with dust and smoke. Even through his breathing mask, he could smell the poison that filled Earth's atmosphere. 3,000 years ago, his ancestors had breathed clean air here. Now everything was dead and toxic. "Team 2 moved to the left," Danny whispered into his radio. He was a colonel in the human army, and he was leading the first group of soldiers to set foot on Earth in 3 millennia. His men moved like shadows through the ruins. They wore special suits that made them invisible to alien eyes. The technology was something humans had developed during their long journey through space. The Zephyrians had never seen anything like it. Behind Danny, Sergeant Maya Johnson was watching the alien patrol that was walking past their hiding spot. The aliens looked like giant lizards walking on 2 legs. They carried energy weapons and wore thick armor. But they moved slowly and carelessly. They had no idea that human soldiers were all around them. "They don't even know we're here," Maya whispered. "How long has it been since anyone fought back against them?" "Too long," Danny replied. "They've gotten lazy." The human soldiers had been studying these aliens for 3,000 years. They knew how the Zephyrians thought, how they fought, and how they moved. The aliens had no idea what was coming for them. Danny's radio crackled with a message from the sky. Captain Steve Collins was flying his fighter ship high above the planet, watching for enemy reinforcements. "Ground team, this is Skywatch," Steve's voice said. "I'm seeing movement from the main alien base. Looks like they're starting to worry about something." "Copy that," Danny replied. "How long before they send help?" "Maybe 20 minutes, Steve said. "But don't worry about air support. We've got that covered." Danny smiled inside his helmet. The human fleet had been waiting for this fight for so long. Every pilot, every soldier, every engineer had trained their whole life for today. The aliens were about to find out what 3,000 years of anger could do. "Maya, take your team and hit the communication tower," Danny ordered. "We need to cut off their ability to call for help." Maya nodded and led 5 soldiers toward a tall alien structure that was sending radio signals into space. The building was ugly and metal, nothing like the beautiful towers humans used to build. As they moved through the ruins, Danny could see pieces of the old world everywhere. A broken statue of a human hero lay half buried in alien trash. The remains of a children's playground sat under a pile of toxic waste. Every step reminded him of what the aliens had taken away. "Sir," called Private Nicole Parker from behind him. She was their technology expert, and she was working on a strange alien machine. "I think I can turn their own weapons against them." "Do it," Danny said. Nicole's fingers flew over the alien controls. She had studied their technology for years, just like every other human. Within minutes, she had reprogrammed the machine to work for them instead of against them. Suddenly, explosions started going off all around the alien base. The Zephyrians ran out of their buildings, confused and scared. They didn't understand how their own defenses were attacking them. "Now," Danny shouted. Human soldiers appeared from everywhere at once. They had been hiding in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment. The aliens found themselves surrounded by enemies they couldn't see coming. The battle was over quickly. The aliens were strong and well-armed, but they had been caught completely by surprise. They had never faced an enemy that knew their weaknesses so well. While Danny's team was fighting on the surface, something amazing was happening underground. Maya had found a hidden tunnel system beneath the alien base. Inside the tunnel, she discovered something incredible. "Colonel Wright," Maya's voice came through the radio. "You need to get down here right now." Danny climbed down into the dark tunnels. Maya led him through winding passages that seemed to go on forever. The walls were covered with strange marks and pictures. "Look at this," Maya said, pointing to the walls. The marks weren't alien writing. They were human words carved into the stone by hand, messages left by people who had been hiding underground for thousands of years. "We survived," one message said. "We remember." "The stars will bring our children home," said another. Danny felt his throat get tight with emotion. Some humans had never left Earth. They had been hiding down here all this time, keeping the memory of humanity alive. "How many of them are there?" Danny asked. "We're about to find out," Maya replied. They walked deeper into the tunnels until they reached a large cave. Inside, Danny saw something that made his heart race. Dozens of people were sitting around small fires. They looked human, but their skin was pale from living underground. Their clothes were simple and patched, but their eyes were bright and full of hope. An old woman stood up and walked toward them. Her hair was white and her face was wrinkled, but she moved with strength and purpose. "We've been waiting for you," she said in perfect human language. "Our grandparents told us that someday the sky people would come back." Danny pulled off his helmet so she could see his face. "We're here now," he said. "We've come to take back our world." The old woman smiled and tears ran down her cheeks. "We never stopped fighting," she said. "Every day for 3,000 years we've been getting ready for this moment." She led them deeper into the cave system. What Danny saw there amazed him. The underground humans had built a complete city beneath the alien colony. They had workshops where they made weapons. They had farms where they grew food. They had schools where they taught children about the old world. "We know everything about the aliens," the old woman explained. "We know where they keep their weapons. We know when they sleep. We know which ones are important and which ones are just workers." "Why didn't you attack them before?" Maya asked. "Because we were waiting for you," the woman replied. "We knew that our brothers and sisters who escaped would come back someday. We knew that together, we would be strong enough to win." Danny felt a new kind of hope growing in his chest. The humans weren't just fighting to take back an empty planet. They were fighting to save their people who had never given up. Above ground, Steve Collins was watching the battle from his fighter ship. More alien ships were coming from across the planet, but they were flying right into human traps. Every move they made had been predicted and planned for. "Ground team," Steve called on the radio. "The aliens are sending everything they have at us. But don't worry, we're ready for them." Danny looked around at the underground city and the people who had kept humanity alive on Earth. Then he looked at Maya and Nicole and the other soldiers who had traveled across the galaxy to be here. "Let them come," Danny said. "We've been ready for 3,000 years." General Ryan Hughes stood in front of the huge alien building that had once been the center of New York City. The structure was made of dark metal and reached high into the poisoned sky. Inside were the last of the Zephyrian military forces on Earth, along with thousands of alien civilians who had nowhere else to go. "Sir, we have them surrounded," reported Captain Tony Martinez, a young officer whose eyes burned with hatred. "My teams are ready to finish this. We can blow the whole building and end the alien presence on Earth forever." Ryan looked at the building through his binoculars. He could see alien faces in the windows. Some were soldiers with weapons, but many were just families. Children pressed against the glass, looking down at the human forces with fear. "How many civilians are in there?" Ryan asked. "About 50,000, answered Lieutenant Laura Thompson, who was monitoring alien communications. "Maybe more. They're sending messages to their families on other worlds saying goodbye." Ryan felt a cold weight in his stomach. 50,000 lives. Men, women, and children who had been born on Earth and knew no other home. They had done nothing wrong except be born to the wrong species. Dr. Helen Adams walked up to the group. She was the chief medical officer for the human forces, and she had been treating wounded soldiers from both sides. Her uniform was stained with blood, both red human blood and green alien blood. "General," she said quietly, "I need to talk to you." Ryan followed her away from the other officers. Helen's face looked tired and troubled. "I've been working with some of the alien prisoners," she said. "Most of them have never even heard of the original war. They think Earth has always been their home." "What are you saying?" Ryan asked. "The aliens in that building aren't the ones who burned our world," Helen explained. "They're descendants just like we are. Their great-grandparents might have been part of the invasion, but these ones were born here. To them, this is home." Ryan looked back at the building. Inside were the last aliens on Earth, trapped and scared. Outside were thousands of human soldiers who had waited their whole lives for revenge. "Sir," called Tony Martinez, "Admiral Walsh is on the radio. He wants to know why we haven't finished the mission yet." Ryan picked up the radio. Admiral Kevin Walsh's voice came through clearly from the command ship in orbit. "General Hughes, what's the delay?" Walsh asked. "Every minute we wait gives the aliens more time to call for help." "Sir, there are civilians in the building," Ryan reported. "Thousands of them." There was a long pause before Walsh responded. "General, I understand your concern, but we can't let feelings get in the way of justice. The aliens showed no mercy to our people 3,000 years ago. But these aren't the same aliens," Ryan argued. "They're Zephyrians," Walsh said coldly. "That's enough. Complete your mission, General." "That's an order." The radio went quiet. Ryan stood there looking at the building full of trapped aliens. Around him, his soldiers were waiting for orders. They had come so far and fought so hard to get to this moment. "What are we waiting for?" asked Tony Martinez. "Let's finish this." But Ryan was thinking about something Dr. Foster had discovered in the alien archives. She had found records of the original invasion, along with the names of the Zephyrian leaders who had ordered Earth's destruction. Most of those leaders were still alive, living on distant worlds and protected by their empire's power. "Laura," Ryan called to the communications officer, "are you still monitoring their messages?" "Yes, sir," Laura replied. "They're trying to contact the Zephyrian home fleet. They're begging for rescue." "What kind of messages?" Laura looked uncomfortable. "Mostly just scared families saying they love each other. Parents trying to comfort their children. Normal stuff that humans would say in the same situation." Ryan felt the weight of command pressing down on him. Every human in the fleet wanted revenge for what had been done to Earth. They had all lost something when their ancestors were forced to flee. But taking revenge on innocent aliens wouldn't bring back what was lost. Suddenly, explosions lit up the sky above them. Captain Steve Collins' voice came through the radio from his fighter ship. "Ground forces, this is Skywatch," Steve reported. "We've got big problems. The main Zephyrian battle fleet just arrived. Over 10,000 ships, and they're heading right for us." Ryan looked up and saw the alien ships filling the sky like angry stars. Each ship was massive, bigger than anything in the human fleet. The Zephyrians had come to rescue their people and destroy the human invaders. "How long do we have?" Ryan asked. "Maybe 6 hours before they get here," Steve replied. "Our fleet is moving to intercept, but we're outnumbered 10-1. Tony Martinez grabbed Ryan's arm. "Sir, we need to finish this now. If we don't take out that building, the aliens inside will help their fleet when it arrives." Ryan looked at the building again. Inside were 50,000 aliens who had done nothing but be born on the wrong planet. But outside were hundreds of human soldiers who had sacrificed everything to be here. "General," called another voice on the radio. It was Lieutenant Chris Evans, a young intelligence officer who had been studying captured alien files. "I found something you need to see." Chris ran up to them carrying a datapad full of alien writing. "I've been going through their historical records," he said, breathing hard from excitement. "The aliens in that building aren't just civilians. Some of them are descendants of the original war criminals." "What do you mean?" Ryan asked. "The Zephyrians who ordered Earth's destruction," Chris explained. "Their children and grandchildren live in that building. They've been living here for generations, ruling over our planet like kings." Ryan felt his anger growing again. The descendants of the aliens who had murdered billions of humans were living in luxury on stolen land. They had grown up thinking they deserved to rule Earth. "But that's not all," Chris continued. "I also found records of the Zephyrians who tried to stop the invasion. Some of them were killed by their own people for refusing to participate. Their descendants are in that building too." Ryan closed his eyes and tried to think clearly. Inside the building were the children of both heroes and villains. Some deserved justice, others deserved protection. But how could anyone tell the difference? Dr. Helen Adams walked back over to them. "General, I have wounded soldiers who need medical attention, but I also have wounded aliens who need help. What am I supposed to do? Let some of them die because they were born to the wrong species?" The explosions in the sky were getting brighter as the human and alien fleets moved toward each other. Soon the real battle would begin. The fate of Earth would be decided in the next few hours. Ryan looked at his soldiers, then at the building full of aliens, then at the burning sky above. 3,000 years of exile, 3,000 years of planning, 3,000 years of anger had all led to this moment. Now he had to decide what kind of person he was going to be. The Zephyrian Imperial fleet filled the space around Earth like a swarm of metal insects. Supreme Admiral Zixthor stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the small human fleet with amusement. He had commanded over 10,000 ships, each one larger and more powerful than anything the humans possessed. "These humans think they can challenge the Empire," Zixthor said to his officers. "They will learn the same lesson their ancestors learned 3,000 years ago." But Captain Ben Rogers, commanding the human defense station orbiting Earth, was not afraid. He had spent his entire life preparing for this battle. Every human ship was exactly where it needed to be. Every weapon was charged and ready. Every pilot knew their job. "All ships, this is command," Ben spoke into his radio. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for every human who died when they burned our world. Make them count." The battle began with a flash of light that lit up half the solar system. Alien ships fired their massive energy weapons at the human fleet, expecting to destroy them quickly. But the humans were no longer the same species that had fled Earth 3,000 years ago. Major Sarah Davis watched the space battle from her position on Earth's surface. She was leading the ground defense forces, making sure no alien ships could land and help their trapped people. Around her, human soldiers took cover in the ruins of what had once been great cities. "Look at that," said one of her soldiers, pointing up at the sky. The human ships were moving like dancers, dodging the alien weapons with impossible grace. Their technology was 3,000 years more advanced than anything the Zephyrians had seen before. While the alien ships were big and powerful, the human ships were fast and smart. Dr. Amy Foster was working frantically in her laboratory aboard the command station. She had finally decoded the complete Zephyrian database, and what she found changed everything. "Ben," she called to Captain Rogers over the radio. "I found them!" "I found the location of the original war criminals." "What are you talking about?" Ben asked while dodging enemy fire. "The Zephyrians who ordered Earth's destruction," Amy explained. "They're not dead. They're still alive on the Zephyrian homeworld, living like kings, and I know exactly where to find them." This news spread through the human fleet like electricity. For 3,000 years, humans had dreamed of bringing the real villains to justice. Now they finally knew where to find them. Meanwhile, engineer Nicole Parker was doing something that amazed even herself. She was using the damaged Earth itself as a weapon. All the pollution and poison the aliens had pumped into the planet's atmosphere could be turned into a massive electromagnetic pulse. "If I can time this right," Nicole said to herself, working with cables and alien machinery, "I can knock out every alien ship in orbit." Lieutenant Karen White was helping Nicole by coordinating with the underground resistance fighters. The humans who had lived beneath Earth for 3,000 years knew every tunnel, every cave, every hidden passage on the planet. "The resistance is in position," Karen reported. "When you're ready to activate the pulse, they'll protect the equipment from alien counterattack." High above them, Admiral Kevin Walsh was fighting the battle of his life. His flagship was surrounded by alien ships all firing at him at once. But he wasn't trying to win the battle through strength. He was winning it through knowledge. "All ships execute pattern Omega," Walsh commanded. The human fleet suddenly changed formation in a way that confused the aliens completely. The Zephyrians had never seen this tactic before, because humans had invented it during their 3,000 years in exile. Every human ship moved to exactly the right position at exactly the right time. The aliens found themselves firing at empty space while human weapons hit them from directions they never expected. Ship after ship in the Zephyrian fleet exploded or was disabled. "How are they doing this?" Zixthor demanded of his officers. "Our ships are bigger and stronger." "Sir?" reported one of his technicians. "They seem to know our tactics better than we do. Every time we try something new, they're already ready for it." Commander Jake Morrison was leading a team of human Marines in a boarding action against the alien flagship. They had managed to get inside the massive ship and were fighting their way toward the command center. "This way," Jake shouted to his men as they ran through alien corridors filled with smoke and sparks. The aliens fought hard, but they were fighting on their own ship against enemies who had studied every detail of Zephyrian technology. Jake's team knew where every important system was located. They knew which walls were weak and which were strong. They knew exactly how to disable the ship's weapons and engines. "Jake," came Amy Foster's voice through his radio, "I'm sending you the location of Zixthor's command bridge. If you can capture him alive, we can learn the location of every war criminal in the Zephyrian Empire. Jake smiled grimly. Capturing the alien admiral would be dangerous, but it would be worth it. For 3,000 years, the real villains had hidden behind their empire's power. Today, that would end. Back on Earth's surface, Nicole Parker was ready to activate her electromagnetic pulse weapon. "All human ships, this is ground control," she announced. "In 30 seconds, every electronic device near Earth is going to stop working. Get ready." The human ships quickly moved to safe positions and activated their shielding. The alien ships, not knowing what was coming, stayed exactly where they were. 10 seconds, Nicole counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A wave of electromagnetic energy exploded outward from Earth like an invisible bomb. Every alien ship in orbit suddenly went dark. Their engines stopped working. Their weapons powered down. Their communication systems died, but the human ships were protected. Their shielding held, and their more advanced technology was hardened against electromagnetic attacks. "Now," shouted Ben Rogers. "Hit them while they're helpless!" Human ships swarmed over the disabled alien fleet like wolves attacking a wounded bear. Within minutes, most of the Zephyrian ships were either destroyed or surrendering. On the alien flagship, Jake Morrison kicked down the door to the command bridge and found Supreme Admiral Zixthor standing alone. "His weapon's on the floor. It's over," Jake said, pointing his weapon at the alien commander. "Your fleet is finished." Zixthor looked around at the humans who had captured his ship. "How?" he asked. "How did you learn to fight like this?" Jake smiled coldly. "We had 3,000 years to practice," he said. 3,000 years to think about what we would do when we came home. 3,000 years to plan your defeat. The great Zephyrian Imperial Fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds and enslaved countless species, was broken and scattered around Earth. The humans had not just won the battle. They had won it so completely that the entire galaxy would hear about it. But as Jake looked out at the wreckage floating in space, he wondered what would happen next. The humans had their revenge, but they also had something much more important. They had their home back, and now they had to decide what to do with the power they had won. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in what had once been the United Nations building in New York. The alien structures had been torn down, and humans were rebuilding their ancient capital. Through the window, he could see construction crews working alongside former alien prisoners to restore the city. It had been 6 months since the Great Battle. The Zephyrian Imperial Fleet was destroyed. Their empire was crumbling and Earth was free. But the hardest decisions were just beginning. "Sir," said Colonel Danny Wright, entering the office with a data pad full of reports. "We've received messages from 17 different alien species. They all want to join our alliance against the Zephyrians." Jake nodded but didn't look happy. When news of humanity's victory had spread across the galaxy, it had started rebellions on dozens of worlds. Every species that had been conquered by the Zephyrians was rising up and asking for human help. "What about the war crimes trials?" Jake asked. "They start tomorrow," Danny replied. "We finally captured the original Zephyrian leaders who ordered Earth's destruction. Some of them are over 4,000 years old, kept alive by their technology." Jake felt a grim satisfaction. After 3 millennia, the real villains would finally face justice. But he also felt the weight of responsibility. The galaxy was looking to humanity for leadership, and he wasn't sure they were ready for it. Dr. Helen Adams entered the office, looking tired but hopeful. She had been working non-stop to help heal Earth's damaged environment. In her hands was a small pot with a green plant growing in it. "First successful Earth flower in 3,000 years, she announced, setting the pot on Jake's desk. "We've been able to clean enough soil to start growing things again." Jake smiled for the first time in weeks. The little flower was proof that Earth could be healed. Dr. Amy Foster and her team had been working with both human and alien scientists to develop new ways to fix the environmental damage. "How long will it take to restore the whole planet?" Jake asked. "Maybe 500 years, Helen replied. "But we're making progress every day, and we're getting help from some unexpected places." She was talking about the alien prisoners who had chosen to stay on Earth and help with the restoration work. Many Zephyrians, especially the younger ones, were horrified when they learned what their empire had done. They wanted to make up for their ancestors' crimes. Lieutenant Karen White knocked on the door and entered with another report. "Sir, we've established contact with the underground resistance on 12 different worlds. They're asking for weapons and training to fight their own liberation wars." Jake felt the burden of command getting heavier. Every decision he made would affect billions of lives across the galaxy. If humans helped these rebellions, they would become the new galactic superpower. If they didn't help, countless species would remain enslaved. "What does Admiral Walsh recommend?" Jake asked. Danny's expression grew sad. "Sir, Admiral Walsh died peacefully in his sleep last night. His last words were, 'Tell them we kept our promise.'" Jake felt a deep sadness wash over him. Kevin Walsh had dedicated his entire life to bringing humans home to Earth. He had died knowing that his mission was complete, but he had also died knowing that humanity's greatest challenges were still ahead. The door opened again, and Communications Officer Laura Thompson entered with urgent news. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian homeworld. It's coming from their new government." "New government?" Jake asked. "Yes, sir. After we defeated their fleet, the Zephyrian Empire collapsed. The conquered species on their home world rose up and overthrew the old rulers. They're asking to negotiate a peace treaty." Jake looked around at his officers. These people had all sacrificed so much to get to this moment. They had given up normal lives to serve in humanity's war of liberation. Now they had to help decide what kind of future the galaxy would have. "Sir," said Nicole Parker, entering with a group of engineers, "we've finished analyzing the alien technology we captured. With what we've learned, we could build ships and weapons that would make us the strongest force in the galaxy. Or," added Dr. Amy Foster, who had just arrived, "we could use that technology to help heal damaged worlds and improve life for every species." Jake walked to the window and looked out at the work crews below. Humans and aliens were working together to plant trees where alien factories used to stand. Children from both species were playing together in the ruins of the old world. "What about the Zephyrian civilians?" Jake asked. "The ones who surrendered?" "Most of them want to go home," Danny reported. "But about 10,000 have asked to stay on Earth. They say they want to help fix what their people broke." Jake thought about General Ryan Hughes, who had made the difficult decision to spare the alien civilians in the final battle. Ryan had chosen mercy over revenge, and it had changed everything. The aliens who stayed on Earth became some of humanity's strongest allies. "Sir," said Laura Thompson, "the war crimes trials are about to begin. The media from across the galaxy will be watching. What message do you want to send?" Jake looked at the little flower on his desk. Such a small thing, but it represented hope for the future. Earth was healing. Humanity was home. The galaxy was changing. "Set up a conference with all our allies," Jake decided. "Human-alien doesn't matter. We're going to create something new. Not an empire, but an alliance. A coalition of free worlds that protects each other and helps each other grow." "What about the Zephyrians?" asked Danny. "The ones who committed crimes will face justice," Jake said firmly. "But the ones who want to make amends will get a chance to do better. Everyone deserves a chance to choose who they want to be." 3 months later, Jake stood in the same office, but everything had changed. The walls were covered with messages from across the galaxy. Dozens of species had joined the new galactic coalition. The war crimes trials had ended with justice for the victims and rehabilitation programs for the criminals, who showed genuine remorse. Through the window, Jake could see something that would have been impossible a year ago. Human children and alien children were playing together in a park that had been built where an alien weapons factory once stood. The sky was getting clearer every day as the restoration work continued. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. A young human woman entered, followed by a young Zephyrian who walked on 2 legs like a lizard but wore human clothes. "Admiral Morrison," the human said. "I'm reporter Lisa Bradley, and this is my colleague Zixchen. We're working on a documentary about the restoration of Earth. Could we ask you a few questions?" Jake smiled. Lisa was the daughter of the scout captain who had first seen the damaged Earth. Zixchen was the grandson of Supreme Admiral Zix Thor, who was now serving a life sentence for war crimes. But these young people had chosen to work together to tell the story of healing and hope. "What would you like to know?" Jake asked. "What do you think your ancestors would say if they could see Earth today?" Lisa asked. Jake looked out the window again. In the distance, he could see the construction of a new building that would house the Galactic Coalition headquarters. Representatives from 40 different species would work together there to prevent wars and protect peace. "I think they'd be proud," Jake said. "Not because we won the war, but because we chose what to do with victory. We could have become conquerors, but instead we chose to become healers." Zixchen spoke up in his careful human speech. "Admiral, many young Zephyrians feel guilty about what our ancestors did. How can we make up for crimes we didn't commit? Jake thought carefully before answering. You make up for it by being better than they were, by choosing to build instead of destroy, by choosing to help instead of hurt. The future isn't determined by the past. It's determined by the choices we make today. As the reporters left, Jake sat down at his desk and looked at the little flower that Dr. Adams had given him. It had grown bigger and stronger, and there were tiny buds that would soon become more flowers. Earth was healing. Humanity was home. And the galaxy was becoming a better place, one choice at a time. Outside his window, the sun was setting over a world that was green and growing again. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but it would also bring new hope. The human dream of returning home had come true, but the real dream, the dream of a peaceful galaxy, was just beginning.